Bahrain, Libya, Syria, a chain which spread easily thanks to the initiative and technological abilities of the young. I'm so pleased that you are here with us, young friend, young Tunisian friend. You have been able to bypass the traditional channels and media and use the new media, Facebook, Twitter. It was what Paul Rasmussen said this morning, the use of iPhone. And so you did that so at the expenses, at the authorities' expenses, which was really great. But what is interesting, or what we have found during our meeting, is that it was mainly the young who made the process, who sparked the trigger. But as for women, it was young women who started, but then women of all generations stepped in, and they played different roles. Because if the young played a role as bloggers on the internet, then we had women of different generations, speakers in the streets and square, or fighters, or assisting wounded fighters. We demonstrate, and really it was a cross-cut generation, and also different backgrounds were involved. Even if we have to admit that the Arab Spring did not arise from a request for gender equality. That was not the spring. Even if the patriarchal system was so heavily dominant in all Arab countries and societies. But then, you know, supporting democracy must also mean supporting women's rights. So the two things go hand in hand. But just to give an idea of how segregated women are in their countries, do you know how many women are there in the Arab parliament, in the Saudi Arabian parliament? 0. Do you know how many women in Qatar parliament? 0. Do you know how many women in Oman parliament? 0. How many women in Yemeni parliament? 0.3. 0.3 means 1 out of 300. And then we can go on with Bahrain, 2.5, Iran, 2.8, Lebanon, 3.1. That is 1 out of 100. Indeed, these figures say it all. So, the women were present from the very beginning, but unfortunately, and I must say predictably, this is not reflected in the transitional institutions preparing the new institutional architecture in the different countries. Once more, women are left out almost all over the areas. And yet, women have paid a high human cost for being in the movement. And you know how many women are there in the council, in the Egypt Council to reform the constitution? You know how many women? 0. In the Egyptian Council. 0. And I raised the problem of the absence of women in these transitional decision-making bodies in a meeting with Amr Moussa, Secretary General of the League of Arab States, and also presidential candidate for Egypt. He was in the European Parliament last week. He held a good speech, a speech I could agree totally, but he did not mention women. So there was 50% of the subject completely absent. And so I raised the question. I told him, but where are women? You said reform now, change now. And he said, oh, of course we will think of the women in the future. But let me use the motto the Italian women used when they demonstrate in the streets to hold Berlusconi offending the dignity of women. 1 million women shouted, if not now, when? That is the problem. If not now, when? So what can we do to prevent this exclusion which perpetuates a model of society which we have been fighting, we socialists, women and men, for more than 100 years? And we made some proposals in our council. We passed a resolution, make some points. I will just hint to three of them, not to be too long. First of all, we want to support the fight of Arab women for democracy and their right to be equally part of the democratic transition process and equally in the future institutions. So we have to promote their participation as voters, but also as candidates. So political empowerment. Second, economic empowerment. So we have to help women to organize, Arab women to organize nationally and regionally. We have to build alliances, bridges with them, but also help them to build bridges among Arab organizations within the Arab world and promote democracy, which promote the economic empowerment of women in all spheres. An example, governments, also governments led by socialists and institutions, are giving financial support for the economy of the region. A part of this financial support must be made clear that a part of this support must support women's job, the creation of jobs for women, and must be dedicated to the economic empowerment of women, because socioeconomic development and democracy goes hand in hand. And third, among others, we have to support all social and political forces that are demanding a secular state and encourage the creation of new rules and institutions which preserve religious diversity and respect religious minorities. I'm concluding, but before concluding, let me just inform you about two other resolutions very quickly, because we passed this resolution and another one to draw the attention of the international community to the courage of the women who launched the campaign Women to Drive in Saudi Arabia. Over the past months in Saudi Arabia, a campaign for female driving rights has been led by some courageous women ready to challenge the authorities by refusing to respect the driving ban imposed on them. And it seems that something is moving in the country in their favor, or at least they stopped arresting them, which is already a step ahead. And finally, another resolution to express support for another campaign to award the Nobel Peace Prize 2011 to African women, a collective Nobel to formally recognize the forgotten role women play in African life. The campaign is promoted by CIPSI, an Italian NGO which coordinates about 50 internationally solidarity-based associations, and this campaign has the support of Michelle Bachelet, leading UN Women, and by the President of Liberia. So the two of them are supporting this campaign, and I'm so happy for that. Let's hope it's a new thing, a collective Nobel Prize. And I want to express my gratitude for another resolution, which is not on our initiative, but it is on the initiative of Socialist International. It will be presented by Socialist International on a resolution to celebrate the centennial of celebration, not of founding, of launching, but of celebration of the 8th of March as an International Women's Day. And I express all my gratitude for this. And once more, the motto, which goes for Italian women, which goes for Arab women, and which goes for all women of the world. If not now, when? And the Italian women used to shout, now, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pia. Thank you to all the leaders of the Socialist International Women. I see many in the room, and as usual, they have been gathering right before our discussions, and they are coming to inspire further the struggle of women, particularly the struggle of socialist women as well. Thank you. Well, the Arab world, revolutions, also part in the geography of the struggle for Africa. And in Africa, the Socialist International is today a very strong instrument for the struggle for democracy. Many of our member parties are today in government, and they have been, wherever there have been progress on the struggle for conflict resolutions, for advancing democratic agenda, in Africa you find Social Democrat in the front line. Only in the few months, for the first time, there is a democratic government in 60 years of independence of our friends in the south of Africa, and Alpha Condé is president of his country. In Guinea, we are in the month of March, our vice president, who normally would be here participating in this debate, Mamadou Issoufou, took over following an authoritarian regime, the presidency as well of Niger, one of the poorest countries of the world. This just to tell you that the next speaker is the president of our Africa Committee, the man who lead the work of the Committee of the International in that region, in this region, also your region, Ousmane Tanor.